Hi Yogi, and welcome to another slow flow practice with me, Oceana. In today's episode, we are heading into our fourth and final week of backbending, which of course means that this is an advanced level practice. It's not particularly suitable for anyone who is a complete beginner. For those of you who that applies to, I will link all of the 3 previous videos here for you so that you can pick something there that hopefully is a little bit more your speed. Today's class, I'm really not giving you that much instruction on the basic yoga postures. I sort of expect you to know how to get there, how to get out of them, how to modify them for yourself if you need to. And I'm really sort of focusing my attention on directing you in the more advanced variations where you may be in slightly less familiar territory. Ideally today you would remind yourself of the teaching points that we've covered in the last 3 weeks. So starting with, of course, the idea that these postures might be better referred to as front body openers, so that we shift our attention into the front body as we're coming into them, really thinking about lifting, lengthening and expanding through this part of our body, rather than taking the name backbending very literally and sort of dumping into the back of our body, especially the lower spine. Secondly, we might want to see if we can actually express the back bends a little bit more actively through the stiffest, least mobile part of the spine, so that over time we create a bit more balance. So for me, lower spine is much more, if anything, hypermobile than upper thoracic spine. So by focusing my attention into the upper back, I sort of take some of the weight out of the lower back, and I'm able to, over time, create a bit more mobility where I really need it. And finally, if you were here in week 2, you might remind yourself of what it felt like to work into backbends against gravity. All that engagement that you need from the core body that stabilizes your lower back, the lift of the legs that you get, as well as that sort of engagement in the muscles in the back body and the shoulders that allows you to really express through the upper part of the spine. So see if you can find all of that in today's practice. In terms of props, you shouldn't really need anything unless there's anything particularly that you like to have nearby for yourself. And we'll be starting in the center of our mats in a tabletop position. So when you're ready, join me there, Yogi. In tabletop, we'll start with a gentle warm-up for the wrists because we will be using them quite a bit throughout this practice. So let's start with the most uncomfortable version first. We'll turn the fingertips towards the knees, palms face the ceiling, with the shoulders on top of the wrists, finding just a few very gentle circles in one direction here. And then reversing the direction of those circles a few times. Eventually, when you come back to center here, find stillness, draw the sitting bones back towards the heels, just a touch so that you can stretch very much the top of your wrist, arm and hand. Turn the inner elbows forward. Gently bring the shoulders back on top of the wrist. Turn your fingertips towards the outer corners of the mat and repeat the same thing. So circling maybe a little bit bigger circles of the shoulders on top of the wrists and the hips on top of the knees. Reverse the circles when you're ready, going in the opposite direction. Finding stillness, turn the fingertips forward, make sure the hands are underneath the shoulders, and from there again finding the circles of the shoulders and hips on top of the wrists and knees, possibly here making those circles even bigger, so you may end up with the shoulders coming slightly forward of your wrists and possibly the sitting bones drawing all the way back towards the heels. After a few rounds, reverse the circles. You might start fairly small again and gradually expand those circles outwards for a few rounds, softening the elbows here so that you can really find a little bit of freedom in that movement, warming up all the major joints. And we'll meet back in the center. From there, drawing the sitting bones back into an extended arm child's pose. We'll move through Bali Seal Cobra 3 times. As you inhale, come onto your knees, press the hips forward, lift your fingertips up. As you exhale, draw the fingertips to the back of the mat, round the forehead towards the knees. Circle the arms all the way to the front of the mat. Press into the palms as you round through the spine. Cow pose. Let the hips descend, soften the elbows to find Bhujangasana Cobra pose. Lift the chest towards the chin. Pressing into the hands. Arch through a cat pose into an extended arm child's pose. Back to the starting position here. Exhale. Finding 2 more rounds here as you inhale, coming up into that kneeling position, lift the fingertips. Exhale, draw the fingers to the back of the mat, round the forehead in towards the knees. Circle the arms all the way to the front as you inhale, pressing down into cow pose. Let the hips roll forward, shoulders draw back, cobra. And arching through the spine as you exhale back into child's pose. We'll move through this final round, possibly all on our own. Inhale to lift. Exhale, take the fingers back. Inhale, circle the arms forward, pressing down as you round through cow pose into cobra. Arching the spine as you draw back into your child's pose. Press into the hands as you come all the way up, tucking the toes under for downward facing dog. First downward dog of practice, so do feel free to bend the knees, spin the inner elbows forward, press down through index finger and thumb. Maybe have a little moment to adjust into the pose. And when you're ready, the big toes touch at the back as you inhale. Right leg lifts up and back into 3-legged dog. Big toe reaching for the ceiling. As you exhale, draw the right knee into the chest, shoulders forward. Step or shimmy the right foot to the front. Spin the back heel down. Use your left arm to windmill the arms and open it up into Warrior 2. Finding that perfect alignment for a moment before we get moving. As you inhale, straighten the front leg, turn to face the left edge of your mat and reach the arms overhead. As you exhale, press the air down with your palms, rebend the front knee, take the eyes forward. 2 more times, moving with your own breath as you inhale up and exhale to come back into that lunge. On this final time here, stay in that Warrior 2 for an in-breath. As you exhale, backhand to the back thigh, reverse the Warrior to the back of your mat. Inhale, coming through Warrior 2, release your right forearm to the front thigh, left fingertips up and overhead. Maybe staying in this taller version of Parsvakonasana, possibly bottom hand to the floor, or binding the hands behind your back here. Whichever option you choose, making sure that the chest is spinning open, you're breathing equally into both lungs. And if you caught that bind, gently release. Come back into Warrior 2 as you inhale. Now from here, we'll turn to face the back of the mat by bringing the hands fairly low, so shifting our center of gravity lower, almost as if we're painting ripples along the surface of a lake, and adjusting our feet until we find Warrior 2 at the back. Now slightly different here. As we straighten the left leg, we draw the fingertips in, pinching the shoulder blades at the back and bringing the palms towards our rib cage. On the exhale, pressing the air away with our hands, rebending the front knee, taking the eyes forward. 2 more times as you inhale to lift up, pinch the shoulder blades. Exhale to soften back into that lunge. Final time, we meet in Warrior 2. We allow the fingertips to soften down. catching our inhale. On the exhale, right hand to the back thigh, left fingertips lifting up and overhead to reverse our warrior. As you inhale, floating through warrior two to Parsvakonasana, left forearm to the back thigh, right fingertips overhead, either staying nice and tall, possibly bottom hand to the floor, or interlacing the hands behind you for the bind. Spinning the chest open, lifting the top shoulder back. And gently releasing the hands, finding our way back into warrior two so that we can trace our way back to the front of the mat the same way. So our center of gravity goes low, we turn from the feet to point all 10 toes forward, finding a runner's lunge at the front of the yoga mat. And on an inhale, stepping the back foot forward into your halfway lift, Urdhva Dhanurasana as you inhale. On the exhale, folding belly to the thighs, reaching crown of the head towards the floor for Uttanasana, standing forward bend. With soft knees as you inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead with that reverse swan dive, finding upward salute, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, release the hands down by your side in mountain pose, Tadasana. I'll come to face you here and we'll have just a brief Qigong interlude so that our breath can settle back to its natural rhythm. We'll cross the arms in front of the chest without the hands and arms touching, almost as if you're taking off a jumper as you inhale, lifting the arms up and overhead, turn the palms away from each other as you exhale to release the hands down. Opposite arm in front as you inhale, lifting the arms up, separating clouds. As you exhale, palms turn out. Maybe finding that movement and matching it to your own breath, closing the eyes as you go through your final few rounds here. The next time that your arms lift, shift your body weight across into the right leg, lift the left knee into the chest. Flex your left toes towards the shin bone, bend the standing leg and bring the left ankle just above the knee onto your right thigh. Let your left knee turn out to the side for Arjanasana. Draw the sitting bones down and back. Maybe if you want an extra challenge, let your eyes lift between your pinky fingers for the final few rounds of breath here. Our balancing chair pose, sometimes called figure of four pose. As you inhale, press into your standing leg, lift your left knee up into the chest, and then bend the standing leg a bit more generously so that you can step the feet together into chair pose, allowing your sitting bones to descend down and back. Exhale to fold all the way into your legs at the front of the mat. Either finding your way into downward dog or child's pose, otherwise floating through vinyasa as you exhale to jump to chaturanga. Inhale into the back bend of your choice. And exhale all the way back into downward facing dog. We'll meet there. Big toes touch at the back as you inhale, left leg lifts up and back for three-legged dog on the second side. Exhale, draw the left knee forward into the chest for tiger's curl. Step or shimmy the foot to the front of the mat. Back heel down as you inhale, reach the arms all the way forward into a warrior 1.5. Center of your chest is pointing towards the front right corner of your mat. Let your fingertips reach as far forward as you can into a Qigong form known as monkey offering white fruit. Very actively pressing into your feet. And as you exhale, interlace the hands behind the back. Inhale, roll the shoulders back and lift the chest towards the chin rather. As you exhale, bring your front shoulder to the front knee. Let the arms go overhead, crown of the head to the floor for humble warrior. Find a few rounds of breath here. And gently, as you soften the elbows, release the arms. Use your left arm to windmill and open it up into warrior two. Turn your front toes in, back toes out. Send your sitting bones as far to the front of the mat as you can and reach them behind you. Reach the arms either side, finding a high skandasana. Hovering here for a moment, torso may come parallel to the floor. And then we shift our body weight to the opposite leg, changing sides. Again, finding just a few moments to breathe and float here. And then our back toes turn in and we turn, find that warrior 1.5 at the back of the mat, aiming the chest towards the corner of the mat instead of forward. Now reach the arms as far to the back as you can, pressing into both feet. Monkey offering white fruit on the second side here. Exhale to interlace the hands the unusual way behind your back. So one pinky finger over. Draw the shoulders back, lift the chest as you inhale. And exhale, bring your right shoulder towards the right knee, arms overhead. Crown of the head may come towards the floor. And then gently softening the elbows first so that you can windmill, opening up left arm into your warrior two. Now you may come back to your high skandasana, so turning the toes in towards the left edge of the mat. Possibly your sitting bones, your right sitting bone can come towards the right heel, and you can let the heel lift so that it becomes a toe balance. You could have the hands on the floor or hands at the chest to find a moment here. Lifting left toes up at the front of the mat, and then switching sides. Maybe unsupported, coming to the front. And then turning all the way forward to face the front of the mat. On an inhale, step the back foot forward to the front into your halfway lift, Urdhva Dhanurasana. And exhale, fold back into the legs for Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Now with soft knees, as you inhale, sweep the arms out and overhead into your upward salute, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, release the hands down by your side for mountain pose, Tadasana. Again, we'll have just a brief moment here for a Qigong interlude. So as you inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead, reach the palms towards the sky. As you exhale, bring the palms down in front of your chest, pressing the air down towards the ground. And we'll have just a couple more of these clearing breaths as you inhale, allowing the arms to sweep up. And exhale, actively thinking about pressing down. When you've got the hang of that movement, starting to close the eyes and really thinking about, as you inhale, gathering in everything that serves you, that's good. That could be kindness, compassion, being gentle with yourself. And as you exhale, releasing something that's annoyed you, irritated you today, something that just is not doing it for you, not cutting the mustard, not serving you so well. So for me personally, we've had a lot of builders around the house currently, so there's been a lot of things to sort of try to get me out of my zen. I'm going to release all of that. We'll make this our final round. So as you reach the arms up next, from there we'll shift our body weight into the left leg, drawing the right knee into the chest, flexing the right toes up. And then bending our standing leg so that we can bring the ankle just above the knee. Again, finding that balancing chair pose, drawing the sitting bones down and back. Arjanasana, sometimes also figure of four pose, any of those names. Maybe again, you may wish to lift your eyes between the fingertips, challenging your idea of balance. And when you're ready, as you inhale, press into your standing leg to lift your right knee back into the chest. Bend the standing knee so that you can find chair pose, that invisible chair behind you. And as you exhale, fold into the legs. legs for Uttanasana, standing forward bend, either finding your way into downward dog or child's pose, otherwise floating through vinyasa as you exhale to jump to chaturanga. Inhale into the back bend of your choice, and exhale all the way back into downward facing dog. We'll meet there. Now we'll take this into wild thing, which is sometimes also referred to as flip dog. So place the ball of your right foot behind the left foot, come onto the outer edge of the left foot and your left hand, soften the lower elbow, reach the right arm up and overhead as you spin the chest and hips up towards the ceiling. Find a moment to breathe here, don't lose your orientation too much. Now that we've changed perspective. And with your next exhale, soften the bottom knee. Turn yourself all the way back around to your downward facing dog. And as you inhale, lift the right leg up and back into three-legged dog. Exhale to draw the right knee forward to the elbow. Hover just for a moment before you lower the knee all the way to the wrist onto the floor. Turn your right toes forward. Bring your back knee down, coming into pigeon pose. Now, of course, if that was a very strong back bend for you, feel free to come onto your forearms and find a few moments to rest here so that you're giving yourself a bit of a counter posture. If you're going to take pigeon pose into a deeper back bend, then option one is to have the fingertips on the floor, finding that nice lift through the center of the chest here, possibly staying there, or if you feel ready, you can bend your back foot and see if you can bring the big toe to the inner crease of your left elbow. The right hand could reach behind, so you might be able to catch the hands behind your back for mermaid pose. And if you want to go for full King Pigeon pose, then see if you can catch the outer edge of your foot. And there's a case of rolling your shoulder until your elbow is pointing up towards the ceiling, and from there squaring as much as possible the hips and shoulder forward, possibly reaching the opposite arm to the back, possibly wrist or hand, maybe even catching the foot, finding a few rounds of breath wherever you are. And gently, gently when you're ready, release, reverse all the movements one after the other. Plant the hands at the front, tuck your left toes under as you step your way back into downward facing dog. Have a moment with your knees bent to really lengthen the sitting bones up and back. Press through your hands, soften the shoulders, find length especially in the lower back. And then we'll move on to the second side. So we'll roll over onto the outer edge of the right foot. The left ball of the left foot steps behind us. And then we straighten the bottom leg, pressing into the ball of the left foot to spin the hips and chest open into wild thing, reaching left fingertips overhead. Maybe a few rounds of breath here. Of course, you can always reverse out of this at any point. And then slowly, slowly making your way back to downward facing dog. Catching your breath there for a brief period before you lift the left leg up and back into three-legged dog. As you exhale, left knee towards the left elbow, hover. Slide the knee down towards the wrist. Maybe slip your back foot a little bit further back. Actively, if you can, draw the left toes to the front of the mat so you're protecting your left knee joint. Again, yogi's choice. Feel free to, of course, come onto forearms to release tension in the back body. If you prefer to take this one step further, you could come onto the fingertips, working on really extending through the thoracic spine here, lifting the center of the chest. If you're going for mermaid pose, start by lifting the back foot, maybe bringing the big toe to the elbow crease and catching the hands. Possibly again any version of King Pigeon, so you may catch the foot from the outside with your right hand, and from there rolling the shoulder to lift your elbow up towards the ceiling, squaring to the front of the mat, and maybe catching your opposite hand with the left hand behind you. Find the breath. And again, reverse the movements to gently come out. Plant the hands at the front of your mat, tuck the back toes under, and either step it back to downward dog, find child's pose early, or your final vinyasa, step it to a high plank. Exhale to lower down halfway. Inhale into the back bend of your choice, and exhale back to downward facing dog. And as I said, we'll meet in child's pose, so let your knees come to the floor, big toes touch at the back, pressing through the palms for a moment here to really lengthen the lower back, give ourselves a really deep counter posture. Slowly from there, we'll walk the hands back in towards ourselves. Just briefly coming to a kneeling position so that we can slip the feet out from underneath us, and we'll plant the feet in front with the knees generously bent, and starting with a little bit of a forward fold to release the lower back. So we'll start with the left knee drawing in, right leg forward, let the knee drop out to the side for Dhanurasana, flex your front toes, frame the front leg with both hands as you exhale, possibly drawing the collarbones towards your front big toe as you fold in. Find a few moments here to soften, maybe deepening the pose or simply staying where you are, possibly even drawing slightly back so that you're not overdoing it at any point. Gently from there, walking the fingertips back in towards yourself, using the left hand to support the knee as you bring it back upright, coming into our seated twist. So as you inhale, lift your left fingertips, plant the hand behind you. On an inhale, lift the right arm, either wrap it around the top knee or hook it across the thigh. As you inhale, find length through the spine, wringing out that all of those back bends, I should say, there wasn't just one. And possibly as you exhale, spin the chest open a little bit more towards the left side of the mat. Gently unwind your spine, plant the hands over, past your right thigh as you briefly bow down to derotate. Inhale to come back up. Right hand underneath the right knee to plant the feet flat in front of you and change sides. So left leg goes forward, right knee draws in and rolls out to the side. We'll frame the left leg, flexing the toes towards our face. On the inhale, lengthening through the front of the body, and on the exhale, starting to draw the collarbones forward towards the front big toe. Find a few moments here to settle in and possibly soften a little bit more if you can. Always sort of riding that edge of comfort and discomfort, not overdoing it, not overstretching your hamstrings, but staying within what is very much available to you today, right now. Gently again, fingertips come underneath you to walk the torso upright. Support the right knee with the right hand as you lift it towards the chest. Inhale, reach the right fingertips up and spin them behind you. Left fingertips lift, either wrapping around the top knee or hooking across the thigh. finding Marichasana, our seated twist, so possibly thinking about lengthening as you inhale, and as you exhale, rolling the chest open towards the right side of the mat. Releasing tension in the spine here for your final few rounds of breath. Unravel your top arm, plant the hands over, past the left hip as you exhale to bow down and derotate. Inhale to come back up, plant both feet at the front, slide your sitting bones down, and from there, gently as you exhale, rounding the spine to come all the way onto the back body. And when you're there, we'll set ourselves up for half bridge, so walk the feet in towards the sitting bones. Spin the palms up towards the ceiling and shimmy the shoulders towards the spine. Now, begin by pressing into your heels to slowly lift the hips, peel one vertebra at a time towards the sky, and maybe from there walk yourselves onto the very tops of the shoulders, possibly even, if you wish to, interlacing the hands behind the back. And we'll stay for a few rounds of breath, so very actively press from your back body to lift the front of the body, to find that extension through the hips. When you're ready to come down, release your hands first, come onto the tops of your shoulders, and one vertebra at a time, let the spine descend until the hips are the final thing to come to the floor. Allow the spine to find its natural curves again, and of course you can, in the next round, feel free to come back to half bridge, possibly to have a rest and sit this one out entirely. If you do want to come into full wheel, which is the more advanced version of this back bend, then the entry point is the same, except we have to bring our hands either side of the ears with the fingertips pointing towards the heels of our feet. Now, make sure that your hands are shoulder distance and that you hug the elbows in towards one another. Again, start by pressing into the heels of your feet to peel the spine off the ground. And once the hips and upper back are lifted, press into your hands to lift the chest and head. When you arrive, feel free to stay here. You can always come down by tucking the chin in towards the chest and gently landing back on your shoulder blades if you need to. Otherwise, we'll stay for about 5 to 10 breaths. And you may be able to come onto the balls of your feet and walk the feet in so that you can press the chest forward to the back of your mat, really getting a deep stretch into the front of the body. Again, when you're ready, the chin draws in towards the chest. We slowly lower onto the very tops of our shoulders first, and then allowing ourselves to slither all the way onto our backside. For a moment, having the feet as wide as the mat so that the spine can readjust to its natural shape. Feel free to rest the hands on top of your belly here. And we'll take this into half happy baby here at the end to release the spine. So walk the feet back into hip distance, draw the right knee in towards your chest. For a moment, interlace the hands in front of the knee and really draw the knee towards the torso. Either stay in this variation, or possibly you could prefer to bring the right hand underneath the knee, holding onto the back of the thigh with the sole of the foot facing the ceiling. You may catch the ankle or outer edge of the foot instead. The left hand can rest on top of the left hip here. And you're aiming the right knee past the rib cage towards the floor beneath you. Possibly from there, if you wish to, you could straighten the left leg. So you're working a little bit more deeply into the front of this left hip as well. Allowing the body just for a few moments to really settle into this pose, to release the hips, any tension to ease out. And from here we'll transition this into a reclined twist. So release the grip of your right hand, take the right arm out either into a T shape or bend the arms at the elbows for cactus arms. Let your right knee travel across past the left edge of the mat and come all the way onto the left side of your hip. Possibly to give the knee a little bit more weight, you could bring the left hand on top of the knee. And you may choose to keep your chin between the collarbones or allow the head to rotate over to the right side of the mat. And from there, find a little bit of stillness when you're ready to settle in. Let each exhale melt the back body a little bit closer towards the floor. Allow gravity to really take hold of your body. See if you can release any areas of the body that are sort of resisting that pull of gravity. When you're ready, slowly roll your way back onto your backside. Bring the right foot flat to the floor. Bend the left knee into your chest. Interlace the hands in front of the shin bone, but go one pinky finger over. Again, find that unusual interlace. And start initially simply by drawing the knee towards the chest here. And gently we'll transition again into half happy baby on the second side. So we'll have the right hand on the right hip. You could, of course, stay with the hands interlaced if you prefer. We'll have the left hand behind to the back of the thigh rather, and then turn the sole of our left foot up towards the ceiling, possibly staying there, possibly grabbing onto the outer edge of the ankle or the foot. And again, it's a sense that the left knee is aiming past the rib cage, reaching towards the floor. If that feels fairly steady and comfortable here, you could choose to straighten the right leg towards the front of the mat. So you're working a little bit more deeply into the hips at that point. But it's all very much yogi's choice. Any of those variations are just as good as the next. So don't get too hung up on reaching a certain level here. Again, when you're ready, from here we transition the left knee all the way across to the right side. We can have the left elbow bent or the left arm straight into that reclined twist. I'm shimmying my way onto the right hip here, and the right hand could possibly rest on top of the left knee so that we give it a little bit of extra weight, allowing the body to gradually soften down. Again, possibly choosing to keep the chin between the collarbones or to allow the eyes to drift across towards the opposite elbow. And then finding stillness when you finally settle in, when you find comfort. On your next inhale, come back to center, straighten both legs to the front of your yoga mat, reach the arms up and overhead. Briefly reach your right heel and right fingertips away from each other. Really lengthen the right side of the body. And then switch sides, so make the left heel and left fingertips widen away from one another. And finally, point the toes, reach the fingertips and feet in separate directions so that you create as much length in the entire body as you can. Take a deep, deep inhale here. On an exhale, one knee at a time comes into the chest. Hug the knees in with your arms. Have a little rock side to side. Let the head roll in opposite direction to the knees. And now, Yogi's choice, you could roll over to your right side, releasing the right arm up and overhead, using the left arm to support yourself there. Or with the eyes closed, you could have the hands underneath the knees, using the lower legs to build momentum as you rock forwards and back through the spine a few times. And when you're ready, we'll meet seated. Any comfortable seat works, so shins crossed, heels in one line. Bringing the palms to touch in front of the chest, the eyes could still be closed. We bow the forehead towards the fingertips. And initially just taking a moment to give ourselves a little bit of gratitude for showing up to our practice and dedicating this time to ourselves. Finally, possibly planting our sankalpa, that good intention that guides this sort of focused energy of your yoga practice towards someone or something in your real off the mat life. The light in me recognizes the light in you. Namaste, Yogi. So thank you so much for joining me in today's practice. I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, if you have any questions, feedback or suggestions, leave those in the comments section for me, please. If you would like to find me anywhere else online, that information is in the video description. And if you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and possibly even share it with your friends to spread the good word, so we can grow this wonderful community of yogis. And of course, I hope to see you back on the mat very soon. And until then, thank you, Yogi. Bye.